You clearly are having the time of your life. You say it's the best job in the world. Does this come back to the fact, as has been discussed, that you apparently at the age of 3 told your parents that you wanted to be an actor and you wanted to be Doctor Who?
Well, it kind of does. I mean, I grew up absolutely obsessed with it. So to find myself in the position I now found myself in is relatively surreal and quite difficult to quite compute even now, even 3 years into it. I still can't quite believe that I've ended up doing this job. So it's hard not to be fairly pleased about that.
So to have done and be doing your lifetime's ambition at such a tender age.
Not that tender. I mean, God bless you, Simon, but 36. I'll be 37 soon.
You're a youngster.
It's all relative, isn't it?
But is it as much fun as you always hoped it would be? I mean, just looking around at some of the facts about you and Doctor Who in the past, where people talking about your small role in the animated Doctor Who webcast, Scream of Schalke, where you were apparently recording next door and then you managed to convince the director to give you a small role.
I basically forced myself in and played a couple of lines, yeah.
And in an audio play...
Which, of course, then sent the BBC into stratospheric panic, because the BBC, being the BBC, realised they had somebody involved in this animated recording who they hadn't contracted, and they suddenly started fearing I would sue them for millions of pounds, and I had to... We then had long, protracted toing and froing with all sorts of release forms I had to sign. You can imagine.
I can imagine, absolutely. I've seen those forms. And then there was an audio play, Dalek Empire 3, and you played Galanar.
Do you know I did? Yeah, you have done
the assignment to discover the secrets of the Daleks. So you have been intimately involved in this for much longer than most people realise.
I guess I have, yes. Well, I bought the comic when I was a kid.
And it's every bit as much fun as you imagined that it would be.
It is. It actually, I'd have to say it probably is, yeah. I mean, which doesn't mean it's not hard work and exhausting and there are some days when you just feel a bit knackered with it all, but I never stop enjoying it, no.
I wonder if... I think one of the most fascinating parts about the way you play him, David, is that you are always reminded, I think, and far more so than in the past, that he is a lonely man, point number one. Although he's having a good time in general, he's a very lonely man, and that also... he's an alien.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Which is part of the reason why he's a lonely man. He's an alien who's, to our eye, virtually eternal. So he's never going to be able to sort of, however long you hang out with him, it's never going to be long enough for him, So there's an essential tragedy in there, isn't there?
And is that the more complex part of the role? I mean, is that quite fun to try and work out where to take the Doctor?
Yeah, and I think it's something you've got to do to keep it alive and to keep it moving on, to keep a format that is essentially unchangeable, and find ways to keep changing it is I think the challenge and the delight of doing it. And because you've got Russell T Davies in charge of the writing, you can do that because he's the finest television writer there is. So you can enjoy sort of redefining the seemingly defined,
He said, Russell Davies says that he's making you go further than you've ever gone before. He's pushing the Doctor much further and doing more stuff than he's ever done. Can you explain a little bit about what he means there?
Well, I suppose because you've got this character who's lost everyone he's ever got close to, it's then quite interesting to give him a new family member. For instance, episode 6, The Doctor's Daughter. You'll see in episodes 8 and 9 a character played by Alex Kingston that is a character unlike we've ever seen the Doctor have to interact with before, and that again is just it's finding new ways to give him an emotional life without destroying the character at the same time, And I think we found that actually you can push it further than we might have thought. You can make him fall in love. You can sort of play with his emotional health, and the series doesn't fall apart because it's such a great format, such a great concept that it can actually take quite a lot.
How important for you is the fact that you clearly can go off and do other things, you can do other roles? Is that what keeps it fresh? Is it just something that you always felt instinctively you wanted to be the Doctor, but you also wanted to turn up doing other characters as well?
I suppose so. Yeah. I mean, and you get asked to do other things, and inevitably because Doctor Who's quite high profile, then that allows opportunities that you might not have had before. So if those opportunities are going to come up, then I'm going to want to take them because I'm an actor. That's what I do, and obviously I want to enjoy all sorts of different parts and all sorts of different roles in as many different ways and as many different mediums as there are. So yeah, I mean, I've always just looked for what the next interesting part is going to be, and I quite like working as well. I'm probably something of a workaholic, so if I can fill my time with interesting things, I'm going to end up doing that.
And talking of interesting things, so come July, when you're in Stratford playing Hamlet for the Royal Shakespeare Company, I wonder how the sales will be going on that first night.
I don't want to know because it's an alarming enough prospect. Before you start rehearsals, you see, things like this are simply terrifying because it's all potential and expectation. And because I've been doing this for sort of 18 months ago, it felt like a great idea because I didn't have to think about it. And now as it rolls round, people are saying they're buying tickets. I'm saying, well, don't do that. I might not turn up. I might not be there. But once I start rehearsals, of course, then I can get into it and start enjoying it and start getting very excited about it and hopefully putting together a great production. But,
I know, and is that still considered? I mean, you've done Shakespeare before.
Yeah.
Maybe your theatre work has been sort of underwritten about before in the past. But I wonder if there'll be a whole stack of people who will now go and see Hamlet for the first time. This will be their way into Shakespeare.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, for me, it feels like that's the job I do. Sort of theatre and classical theatre is sort of my job, and all this being on the telly stuff has felt like a kind of extended sabbatical. So it'll feel a bit more like going home to me. But I appreciate the point that to a lot of people, I'm famous for a television show. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of audience it attracts. We've also got Patrick Stewart in the cast, who again is
how great is that?
Is a classical actor of great repute, but is known to many other people as Jean-Luc Picard and Professor Xavier.
Absolutely, and you can get action figures of him and then get action figures of you.
Yes. Maybe we'll compare action figures.
Now, maybe this isn't the...
He's probably got two, though, isn't he? He's probably got a Star Trek action figure and an X-Men action figure.
So he outscores you, clearly.
He does. I did a Harry Potter film, and they did one of those...
Barty Crouch.
Barty Crouch Jr., yes. And they did one of those laser... what do you call them? Where they laser scan you? And I was.
Is that a laser scan?
Yeah, it's probably called a laser scan, isn't it? And I was told at the time that was for my action figure, which has never materialised. So I might have to push Warner Brothers to try and get that action figure out in time for the start of rehearsals, so that I can compete with Patrick's action figure count. I
remember interviewing. Is it Christopher Hamill who played Luke Skywalker in the Star Wars?
Mark Hamill.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And I remember interviewing him, although clearly not remembering his first name. And he said that he was opening in The Elephant Man on Broadway.
Right.
Clearly a very difficult role.
Sure.
And on his first, he said there was nothing more depressing. On his opening night, he went out, and in the front row were people dressed as Chewbacca, Darth Vader, and assorted other characters from Star Wars, and his heart sank. So may I wish you all the best for Hamlet, and hope that your audience is not dressed.
I think Doctor Who fans are much more tasteful.
Do you reckon?
Yes.
It sounds absolutely thrilling. I can imagine how the RSC are going to be dead chuffed. Was there any sense from the BBC that, oh, come on, you can't disappear for a whole season to go and be a serious actor? We need another series from you.
It wasn't really my decision. There was it was decided that the Doctor Who was going to not rest but go a little more low key. I think that was always kind of written in to the sort of 5-year plan, as it were. So I just took the opportunity because there was 6 free months there to use them up, really. I think the BBC are very protective of Doctor Who and very supportive of it, and I think that it's thought that, rather than just keep bringing it back and banging it out, you might keep it a bit more special if you tease it now and again.
So the plan is, as I understand it, we get this big series this year, the 13 parts, and then we're into like bank holiday specials.
There'll be a Christmas special this year, and then there'll be 3 specials throughout next year. Yeah, I don't quite know what the transmission dates will be yet, but I don't know. Yes, there will be 3 specials at some point over the year.
And then after that, who knows? I mean, is
after
it all
that, there
will
be another series, I believe. I believe that's now been confirmed, but quite who'll be involved is a long way from having to be decided yet.
Right. So that sounds pretty vague.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?